Right, so it's Mr. Dosser back with another video. This is a bit of a part 2 to the worst depreciating cars, the cars that depreciate the fastest. The first lot I did were more the run-of-the-mill cars, things you could, well, were pretty much attainable. Now, the list I'm going to be talking about in this video are cars that are the worst depreciators by actual cash lost. And these are pretty much unattainable cars for the vast majority, if not 99% of the population. And it's pretty much just a bit of fun really to see the 10 best ways to lose the biggest cash, lump sum. And it is quite terrifying actually, especially when you work out per mile. Before we get into it, could you please like, subscribe, comment, and let's get into it. Just a proviso to set it up for you, what you'll notice is there's a running theme with these cars, the type of car you'll pick it up very quickly. Not only that, but you have to put into consideration that there's a reason why you don't see many of these type of cars around, and you may actually see more Porsches, Ferraris, the two-seaters anyway, than you would some of these cars, which might give it away already. Now the reason being is that Ferraris and Porsches, you buy the right one, which is usually the two-seater ones or the standard 911 Carrera or Carrera S, they retain their value pretty well because they're desired cars. You want a sports car, there's two manufacturers you go to straight away, pretty much Ferrari and Porsche, and maybe Lamborghini as well. But anyway, let's get into it. At number 10, we have got the Bentley Mulsanne Saloon. This is the long wheelbase. I love this car. I love the engine, I love the styling, I love everything about it. Now, this is like a 2010, 2017, 18 model. It made it for quite a while. Costs new about 295k. Now, this isn't the full picture, this isn't the full story by the way, because you can easily spec this car to £350,000. If you go to, this is the thing, manufacturers like Bentley, Rolls-Royce, etc., you can go up to them if you're buying a car new and say to them, I want my carpet blue, I want my carpet this shade of green, I want it red, I want the headlining in, I don't know, royal blue or Santorini blue, whatever sort of shade of blue or green or red you want, they will probably do it. It's the case of how much money do you have. They'll say, yes sir, or yes ma'am, you can have it, however it will cost you XYZ. Again, it's one of those things. So cost new, let's say 300 grand. After 3 years, you'll be lucky if the car's worth a smidge over 100 grand. So you've lost somewhere between 185 to 190 grand. Possibly even as much as 200, depending on how wild you go. If you go to town on the spec and select everything, you probably lose 200 grand. I wouldn't be surprised. So that's 200 grand almost in 3 years. Think about how many cars you could buy for 200 grand. Think about how many deposits for a house you can put down. Next up, number 9. Oh look, another Bentley. The Bentley Continental Flying Spur. This is a 6 litre W12. Costs new is about 170. Again, you can spec it up easy to 180 to 200. After 3 years, it's worth about 50 to 55k. Quite terrible to be honest, and I wouldn't be surprised if you can find ropey examples starting with a 4, so 45k. So again, you lose anywhere between 115 to 120,000 pounds. That's quite a lot to swallow. Next up, the Mercedes-Benz S-Class Maybach or Maybach, depending how you say it, S650 V12 first class cabin. A limited edition by the way, 2017, cost new about 190 to 200,000. After 3 years, it's worth about 80, so you lose 110 grand, 215 grand, so that's a lot. Number 7, another Bentley, the Bentley Continental GT and GTC 6 litre W12, and this is the first edition. This is the newer Continental by the way, so 2018 afterwards. Cost new, starting anywhere between 212,000, go all the way up to 240, 250 quite easily. Retained value after 3 years, somewhere around the 105,000 mark. So you pretty much lose half the value of the car. That's pretty much it. You lose at least half the value of the car after 3 years. Next up, quite a surprising one, is the Range Rover long wheelbase 2 litre hybrid, the P400e. That's the autobiography. The cost new, this is actually astonishing. I had to pause there because I'm actually genuinely surprised by this. I knew about the Bentleys and I knew about the S-Class Maybach, but this has actually taken me by surprise. So 2017, cost new is £170,000. 3 years later, it's worth 70 or £71,000. How? I did not know that an autobiography Range Rover with the 2 litre 4-cylinder hybrid was 170,000. Well, I thought for that sort of money you could get the SVA, so the SV autobiography. So that was, and that's with many options ticked. A plethora of options ticked. However, by looks of things, you can do that on a 2 litre 4-cylinder. I don't know who in their right mind to spend 170 grand. I think you need to get your head checked out if you did, because you could buy a G63 for that money, or a used Bentley Bentayga. Again, there's so many cars you could buy, SUVs, for that money. I'm perplexed as to why you'd spend it on a 4-cylinder SUV. Strange. And you might say, well, if you live in London because of congestion charge, etc., well, if you can afford to spend 100 grand plus, 150 grand plus on a car, do you really care about congestion charge, as in the actual fee per day? Don't think so. Anyway, next up on the list is the Nissan GTR 3.8 V6 Nismo. This is an interesting 2016 onwards, costs about 175 to 180 grand new. That's a lot for a GTR. Now you have to consider the GTR has been around since 2007-ish, and it's gone through different variations, upgrades, etc. And it started off as a car that was worth about 50 to 55,000 pounds. Obviously this has been upgraded, more power, aero, etc. And after 3 years it's worth about 75 to 80 grand, so you lose about 95 to 98,000 pounds. The issue I have with the GTR Nismo is that it's just the price new is too much. You can get a bog standard GTR for about 80 to 90, brand new. I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it's about the 80 to 90 grand mark, and that's with some options ticked. So why not just do that and spend, let's say, between 5 to 10 grand on mods? Take it to Lichfield, get a stage 3, stage 4 tune, get an exhaust done, exhaust cat pipe, whatever they call it, cat back, get some suspension on it, race suspension if you want, sports suspension if there's better setup available. I'm pretty sure for 20k, all in under 100k, I'm pretty sure you can get a car as quick as, if not quicker, than this Nismo. Anyway, next up on the list is the BMW 7 Series M760 Li X-Drive. This is the one with a 6.6 V12. Love a V12, always loves 12-cylinder engines. And I guess these are things to be celebrated, really, because it won't be long before these sort of engines do not exist, especially in luxury cars, because there's no need really to have them if their whole purpose is just to be serene, quiet, and just go about their business. They're not meant to rock the world, they're not meant to be shouty, they're just supposed to be refined and quick. And if an electric powertrain can do that, then they will get rid of these V12 power plants in luxury cars. But the smoothness that a V12 delivers is very hard to emulate. It's one of those things, it's just a mechanical benefit of having a V12 is the firing angle. It just produces extremely smooth engine. Hence why you can rest I believe it's a 20p as a 50p coin against the rock of a V12 engine, and you can rev the engine and it won't fall over because it's that smooth. Anyway, 2019, cost new is about 140 to 145,000 pounds. After 3 years, the car is worth barely 44,000 pounds. So you lose 95,000 pounds. As a percentage, that is huge. And another one on the list is the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT Roadster, the 4-litre bi-turbo. Now, this is a car I actually have a problem with. I think it's a car that's confused. They don't actually know where it sits. Wait, no, I'm getting confused. That's a different car. Ignore me of that one. I actually like this car. That's part of the GT series. Again, their naming makes it so difficult because I'm getting confused between the GT63S and this. I thought they were talking about GT63. It's not. It's just the normal AMG GT. Cost new is about 185 to 190,000. After 3 years, worth about 95k. You lose about 91,000 pounds. Next up, we got number 2, the Rolls-Royce Ghost Saloon 6.6 V12. Again, it's a BMW V12, the one they put in the 760. Cost new. Now, bearing in mind, this is like a 2010, 2015 car around. So we're talking at least a good few years. And at that time, obviously, things were a lot cheaper than they are now due to inflation, etc. Blah, blah, blah. So £230,000 is what the cost would be new. I mean, select a few options. It'd probably go above 250, maybe 260. Retained value 140. So you lose any between 90 to 110,000 pounds on a car. Because again, you have to bear in mind having a nice spec on a lot of these Rolls Royces. It gets to a certain point again, like a ceiling of a house. You can spend a lot on the house, but depending on the area it's in, you can spend tons specking up a Ghost, but the Ghost will never be worth as much as the equivalent era of Phantom, because the Phantom is the top level, it's the top of the range. So even a basic spec Phantom will always be worth more than a Rolls-Royce Ghost that's had 50,000 or even 80,000 pounds worth of options slapped on in, let's say, 2 or 3 years time. At number 1, we have got the Bentley Bentayga 4-litre V8 Mulliner edition. 2016 is about 150, 155,000. Again, you can probably add a plethora of specs, options, etc. After 3 years, it's worth just under £70,000, so you lose about 85k. This is the V8. You can get a W12 engine, I believe, which would probably be the one to go for, because the 4-litre V8, whilst it's a nice engine, it's really a VW group engine. And yes, I know VW and Bentley anyway, but it's nice to have a unique engine that's not in any other manufacturer within the group, because this V8, I'm pretty sure its underpinnings are shared alongside the Audi RS6, the Audi S8, probably even in some Porsches now as well, and the Cayenne, etc. So I would go for the W12 if you had the money. But anyway, that is a list of the top 10 depreciating cars. Ones that lose a lot of money, ones that are pretty much attainable for the majority of people. Definitely for me anyways, and it might be for you. So I've pretty much wasted your time, but thank you for watching anyway, and let me know what you think, and tell me what you want to see in the next video, and yeah, I'll see you later.